Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's Technical Enablement webinar. We have a lot of great product updates that Brandon and Joe are going to dive into. My name is Emily. I will be the moderator of today's call. Just a few notes before we get started. So you were automatically muted upon entry. And if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A function and we will follow up with you after the webinar. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so you will receive a link with the recording and slides after the webinar. All right, now I'm going to pass it over to Brandon and Joe to talk about today's updates.
Thanks, Emily. Good day, everyone. I want to thank you guys, everyone for joining today. I know everyone's time is valuable, so we promise to make the most of it. My name is Brandon Jurchek. I am a senior solutions engineer here at Veeam, working in the VCSP space, and along with me, I have my colleague Joe Cruz, who is the inside solutions engineer here at Veeam as well. Got a pretty good agenda for you guys today. As most of you know, that we have gone through a recent product release in our Veeam appliance suites. And we have some great things coming out in Veeam Backup and Replication 12.2, being that have the ability to now support Proxmox. In the wake of what Broadcom and VMware and that whole shakeup, we've actually looked at set more hypervisors to run our infrastructures on, so that our customers, our partners, and so forth can have the ability to still be able to provide their services to their customers at an economic price, and also have a viable backup solution to run on those infrastructures. We've made some improvements to our Nutanix infrastructure and integrating with Prism. We've actually introduced a little bit more of our database support, being MongoDB. And then there's a couple other things that we're going to add in. I'll let Joe's going to focus in on that here in a little bit as well. Great things that the VB365, Veeam Backup 365 version 8. We really increased our ability to provide immutable backups and immutable capability to our customers and our partners, having the ability to kind of go in that primary backup job more so than the secondary backup job. Makes things a lot more streamlined, makes things a lot more economical, not only for our partners, but also for their customers as well, to provide that solid solution. Veeam One has a lot of new integrations into it from a multi-tenancy perspective, tying into the Threat Center VBR that was released in 12.0 and 12.1, and then also tying into Service Provider Console. Service Provider Console got a little bit of a facelift this year as well, or this release as well. We have some new multi-tenancy functionality from the self-service portal, and being able to, where tenants can actually create backup jobs, and then also tying in a little bit more of our monitoring, our reporting, and so forth, to kind of truly enhance and continue to build upon that single pane of glass management for Service Provider Console. Putting a nerd hat on here for a second, I've used Veeam in the past as a customer, and that the one thing that was always really a want to have that single pane of glass management, be able to kind of go out and touch my customer or my secondary, tertiary entities of Veeam Backup and Replication, and having a one UI or one GUI to do it from. Service Provider Console, is on the daily strives to become that end-all be-all platform to where you as a service provider can manage, support, report, and also monitor your customer infrastructures, not only from a Veeam Backup and Replication standpoint, handle our cloud workloads, our VB365, and even some of the more serverless type offerings and, database as a service, and some of our just bucketed infrastructures, NAS backups, and so forth. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Joe Cruz. He's going to walk you through some of the finer points and kind of go through a lot of the release notes of this that some of you may or may not be aware of. If you have any questions or would like for us to elaborate on this, please feel free to put it in the chat, and Emily, myself, and Joe will get to those questions in a very timely manner. Other than that, take it away, Joe. I'm going to go off camera and let you have the stage, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. All right, Emily, let's get on over to the Nutanix Prism integration. Perfect. All right. Yeah, so VBR 12.2 allows you to streamline your day two operations. Prism Central integration is supported, along with the inclusion of tags. That's been a very highly requested feature. We have expanded backup customizations to include features such as block size adjustment, compression, and swap file exclusion controls. Networking support has been expanded to include multiple network support for appliances and workers, and the ability to support dedicated backup networks and to assist with complex networking configurations. Next slide, please. All right, so Nutanix Get Controls and SQL log communication is now enabled by default and is configurable in the app settings JSON file. A new summary view for inventory and protection is available in the web UI, and we now have OAuth 2 email notifications, and along with some public REST API enhancements. Next slide, please. So here's just kind of a view of how everything is looking through Nutanix, how this new view looks. Awesome. Next slide, please. All right. So the big announcement as well with 12.2 is we are now supporting a Proxmox VE natively. So we do the same image-based backups for Proxmox VE VMs like we do with vSphere, Hyper-V, AHV, and we can perform cross-platform restores. These are all native and agentless, same image-based backups you've been working with for a long time. We can perform instant recovery to vSphere, Hyper-V, and AHV hypervisors, and we can perform full VM recovery to other hypervisor platforms and public cloud hyperscalers such as Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. With this integration, you can leverage your existing features on Veeam, such as immutability, MFA, and 4 eyes authentication for your backups. And you get comprehensive reporting with Veeam 1 for Proxmox VE. Next slide, please. All right, Veeam has also added support for MongoDB databases. This is done via the Veeam agent for Linux, and version 1 provides support for Linux workloads only. This agent will be deployed and managed via the protection group setting in the Veeam backup and replication server. It is an image-based backup solution for MongoDB. You have incremental, synthetic fulls, and block cloning, all supported for MongoDB backups. Object storage, haunted Linux repositories, and dedupe appliances are all supported as storage targets, and you can utilize backup copy jobs and GFS lifecycle retention policies for these backups. And next slide, please. So what's new? Kind of more of a service provider data protection use case scenario. So a couple new things that we have added is you can now send backups directly to archive storages within a server. So you can send your backups directly from your performance tier to your archive tier. It no longer has to hit your capacity tier. This is ideal for write once, read never compliance regulations. We also have 2 new roles within the Veeam backup and replication server. This is security administrator and malware detection API operator. This is going to allow you to flex your security abilities, giving access security-wise to different auditors without giving them too much access to your Veeam servers. We also now support snapshot immutability capability with HPE Altera MP primary storage appliances. Next slide, please. Now, a public use case. What's new in the public cloud sphere? So for Azure, we have expanded support for Azure Cosmos DB and Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2. And likewise for AWS, we have expanded support for Amazon FSx and Amazon Redshift. Next slide, please. So continuous data protection enhancements. So we still continue protecting critical workloads with VBR after server upgrades, and just need to make sure your previous version is compatible with the CDP IO filters. This eliminates the need to put virtual infrastructure hosts into maintenance mode immediately after a product is updated, so there's a less downtime for you guys. And this provides flexibility when upgrading VBR servers from version 12x, including minor releases from now on. Next slide, please. All right, so this just got announced today. This is the Veeam app for Apollo, XAM, and XSOAR apps. More information will be announced on October 1st, but here's a small sneak peek of what you can expect. So you get centralized security operations. You can obtain a comprehensive view of security operations across your entire environment, including the Veeam environment to stop threats and improve situational awareness. You can simplify the setup and installation of Veeam apps with a pre-configured monitoring and security dashboards, helping ensure smooth and efficient onboarding. You can eliminate alert fatigue and speed up incident response with AI-powered automation to deliver real-time automated response to potential security threats in Veeam environments. monitor enterprise scale environments without overwhelming security teams or burdensome alerts and manual processes. And you can ensure efficient and effective incident management while meeting recovery time objectives, recovery port objectives, and supporting industry compliance regulations with automated ransomware recovery. This has not been announced yet, but like I said, you will see more information on this on October 1st. Next slide, please. And we're going to be going over the enhancements for Veeam back for Microsoft 365 version 8. Next slide, please. So version 8 supports object storage vendor of your choice. You can use any S3 compatible, any object storage vendor out there that is one of the big names. We can go ahead and utilize them. You can now target immutable object storage buckets and send backups directly to. So in the past, you would have to, if you wanted to utilize immutable backups to Microsoft M365, you'd have to create an initial backup job and create a backup copy job and copy those backups to immutable storage. With version 8, you can send backups directly to immutable storage. You don't have to do that backup copy job. We now support governance mode for exit strategies, and your retention period can be increased on an immutable repository after the initial configuration has been completed. You cannot decrease it, but you can increase it after the fact. Next slide. All right, so a big feature of version 8 is backup proxy pools. And what they do is they grant you the ability to provide automated load balancing to deliver truly enterprise scalability and ease of management of resources. It has been designed from the ground up to work with object storage repositories. Proxy pools support Windows and Linux repositories. Next slide, please. And a couple other small things to mention. Basic auth for M365 is gone. We can now back up and restore private and shared team channels now. We have the ability to get M365 SKUs, including education plans. We have a new wizard that's ready to use object storage repository wizard, just help you do your initial configuration. And we also support Amazon S3 One Zone IA support. Next slide, please. Now we're going to go over Veeam 1 version 12.2. Next slide as well. All right, so we have added some comprehensive reporting for Proxmox in over KVM. So we get reports for protected virtual machines, workload protection, backups on the repository, capacity planning, immutable workloads, that kind of stuff. So basically what you expect, reports for Hyper-V and vSphere, you get the same for Proxmox and Overt. Next slide. Some other improvements and enhancements, some expanded health check alarms, some VBR connection failures, data collection failures. You're getting new alerts for these. You can do some workload exclusions, so that way you're not getting positives on things you don't care about in the threat center, and some REST alarms, unique IDs for some better integration with these products. Next page. So some new reporting for Veeam Microsoft 365 V8. So with Veeam 1 12.2, you have reports for the proxy pools and Linux proxies that were added, then immutability for backup jobs. You get a restore operated dashboard that shows you where a backup was performed, who did it, where it's restored to. You get real-time alerts and alarms through ServiceNow, email notifications, syslog, SMTP traps. Next slide. And now we're going to talk about Veeam Service Provider Console version 8.1 and kind of discuss what is new here. So we have enhanced Microsoft 365 data protection. So these capabilities now allow you to have multiple tenant monitoring and reporting and billing. Your backup jobs can now be created by managed clients using the self-service portal, and item level recovery can now be performed by clients using the self-service portal. Next slide, please. So we have now extended support for on-premise virtual infrastructure. So we get multi-tenant monitoring, billing, and reporting for those internal VBR servers. You get better operational efficiency, and you can see what services you can offer for Red Hat virtualization, Linux KVM through the Service Provider Console. Next slide, please. So this is a new one. So previously in the Service Provider Console, the last release, we added support to directly manage and operate a Veeam backup for Azure, a Veeam backup for AWS, products. We have now added the ability to do this with Google Cloud as well. We've also added some additional support for those new AWS and Azure workloads, such as DynamoDB, VPC, RDS, Redshift FSx, virtual networks, and Cosmos DB. So we're just really extending those feature sets to the Service Provider console as well. Next slide. Yeah, our next step in resources. So we'd like to have you guys register as a Pro Partner Portal in the Pro Partner Portal. Guys talking to our sales reps and see how our Veeam products can fit your services and your solutions.
Awesome, thanks, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a lot of content that we kind of threw at you in a short amount of time. Obviously, with a release cycle of this size from Veeam, and we typically do 2 to 3 release cycles a year. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of appliances, some that you may leverage a little bit more than others. So that being said, if you would like to kind of go a little bit more ones and zeros, go a little bit more granular, kind of nerd out on some of the features and releases that we've had, and whether it's in our VBR product or our VB365 service console, please feel free to reach out to your reps. We can schedule a meeting, we can schedule a one-off meeting and kind of dive into things a little bit deeper, or we can kind of go even more singular and focus on some of the new things that we're releasing. Obviously, you saw that we just announced today our partnership with Palo Alto. That's a lot more information coming in that respect as to like what that monitoring solution is going to look like, how AI is going to tie into it, and also how that is going to affect our workloads across multiple platforms. And that being said, mutability, data freedom is something that Veeam has always prided themselves on, having the ability to take your data and put it wherever you want to. And now as our industry, our verticals continue to be ransomware being a clear and present danger, not to steal a movie line or movie title, but it's true. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when now you're going to get hit. So having the ability to do immutable backups in a cost-effective way for our customers and also for our service providers still be able to make their margins on top of that is something that Veeam is striving to make things more resilient, more efficient, and so forth. As you guys can kind of see, go ahead and hit the next slide for me, Emily. If data disruption, immutability, and our ability to keep our data strong, sound, and current, we have another webinar coming up here. I believe it's on October 1st or 2nd, maybe next week sometime. Oh, there it is, October 1st and 2nd, depending on where you are in the world. Our CEO, Anand, and it's going to be there, our product development C-suite, Anton, is going to be there to talk about these things. I highly recommend that you sign up for this webinar. There's going to be a lot of talk as to like where we are in the industry. Some of it will be BCSP specific. Some of it will just be corporate America as a whole. But lots of good ideas and different avenues that you can kind of understand where and how certain vendors, certain players within the market have the ability to disrupt the market, as we've seen with Broadcom, but also how us as a complementary software to the overall holistic infrastructure architecture is, working with that disruption, is trying to make ourselves even more resilient across multiple platforms and a hybrid infrastructure and so forth. But with that, we are kind of closing out this webinar. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get those answered and sent back to you as soon as possible. If you would like to go further into any of the information that has been presented to you today, feel free to reach out to your rep or ping us directly within here and we will get something set up for you. Other than that, I want to thank everyone for joining. Try not to take up too much of your time, as we all know that it is around the lunch hour, depending on where you are in the world, and also that kind of you can get back to kind of doing what you're doing on a Thursday afternoon and making those infrastructures run safe and backups are running. So thank you, everyone.